It is Thursday, it's Friday Junior, and we are still rocking day 4 of the summit. We just heard more dope vibes from DJ Red Corvette, and I'm so happy that we can now share space to get our edges snatched a little bit. I wore a cap on purpose because I already know that these experts are going to step on my toes, but we need it, right? We are talking about the art of releasing control, managing teams, right? This is a safe space. I'm so happy that we have women of color to give these perspectives because there's so much intersectionality and nuance and fear and healing that comes with this. So I'm excited about the ladies that are going to pour into all of us right now. And before we dive into the strategies and the tips, etc., I definitely want each woman to introduce herself. So I will go around the horn. And if you could, please tell us not only what you do today, right, but how you stepped into entrepreneurship as well. That would be amazing. Andrea, let's start with you. Uh-oh, you're on mute, mama.
So I'm super excited to be here. And so today what I do is I have my own business and I work as a body therapist. And my focus is to, let's say, accompany everybody that wants to live in a space in which the nervous system is way more relaxed. And how I got here is because for 7 years, I worked in financial project management. I lived in Europe, I lived in the States, then I came back to my home country, which is Colombia in South America. And I had the experience of managing teams. And then my own personal journey, my body started sending signals. I had panic attacks, I had like chronic pain in my back. And then I started just searching and became super curious about, why my body was doing this. So that shifted my attention. And that's how I decided, okay, I'm going to, let's say, switch my career path. And now I dedicate my time to work with people. So working with enterprises, I teach their teams how they can build like better leadership, how they can access more creativity, but always focusing on the body and the signals that the body is sending to be way more relaxed. So that's what I do.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us, representing the continent of South America. I love it, love it, love it. And I have to follow that up with my favorite scientist to stay in that vein of understanding the body. Denicia, please tell everyone who you are and how you stepped into entrepreneurship and what you do today.
Ew, yes. That was like perfect. I love the lineup. Hey, everybody. I'm Denicia Hilton Harper, and I'm a Dr. of Eastern Medicine and holistic well-being consultant. My business now, the way that it looks now, right, is creating these playful experiences for women to discover and actually be her perfect authentic self while optimizing her holistic health. I got to this point through my start into entrepreneurship was actually just graduating. So I graduated and didn't have, I thought about it a little bit of like, oh, maybe I'll go work for a clinic or something, but I was like, my body didn't like that. So I just kind of just started right out of school. And flip-flopped, tried all sorts of things along the way to get to where it is that I'm at now through various phases and evolutions. The way that I view leadership, it's really cool. I hope I'm saying it right, Andrea? Okay, awesome. I actually do work with other organizations or other coaches, consultants for their clients as well, as far as what does leadership look like for them? And how do you know what your style is? And I actually employ a foundation from Eastern Medicine so that if they know what their predominating styles are, and as a leader, you can leverage that. You're actually minimizing the stress that is on the body and the mind and the spirit for those that are on the team. It's like some, get scared. I don't want to do that because they might leave and everything else. But it's like, you know what? But you're going to get the best out of them. while minimizing other healthcare costs, right? Right, for due to tardiness or doctor's appointments, medications, and all of that stuff that the company would otherwise end up paying for. So I love bringing in that intersection of holistic health and leadership, and that's where I'm at now. So looking forward to hearing from everybody else's perspectives.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Denicia. I'm going to kick it to you, Victoria. Please share your story with us and what you do today.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is so all of these beautiful. My name is Victoria Campbell, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I say that with pride. I say that with hesitancy. I say that with, oh my God, is that like a real job? Because I grew up in an era where that was not a thing. It was called side hustles. It was called, oh, she got 11 jobs. It was called, yeah, your Jamaican is showing up and I see it in how you work. And it was never given the respect or the honor or the education or the funding that it deserved. I was a young mom in a young marriage, and we didn't have a lot of money, and we had to make things work. And so, like many of the people on this call, it all started at a kitchen table. It started with me doing notary services on the side and doing extra little pickup jobs at like law firms. One of my favorite stories to tell that y'all can come and hear me tell at one of the tables is how I signed up for a job at a call center, or at least I thought it was a call center, but the kind of calls they wanted me to make were not the kind of calls I wanted to be making. And so over time, these experiences led to what I like to call those power skills, those soft skills that allowed me to build up and grow up in the corporate world and in education. And that's where my background is. And, eventually I just reached a point where I was working 80 hours a week and there was no joy in my work. I enjoyed what I did, but I didn't find joy in the work because I was tired and overwhelmed. And nobody was there to tell me, you know what, it's okay to be like, I'm tired and I'm overwhelmed. And so where I found that space is creating the space for myself in entrepreneurship. And so I am a consultant. I have been for the last 10 years. In addition to that, I am a certified yoga instructor because I believe in wellness and health and that it should not be something that people gatekeep and keep from us. So mad props to Andrea and Denicia for the work that they do. And I recently started a business last year where I specialize in fragrance and wellness products because joy, be damned, it is not a thing that should be deferred. It's a birthright. And so I stand in all three of my jobs trying to help people find that space. And on top of that, I'm having a whole lot of fun doing it. And please do not confuse that with that it's not hard. It's hard and I'm having fun. Full stop. On to that.
So good. So good. I'm loving the range, the diversity of experiences, the honesty. It's the honesty for me about how we are still figuring out how to navigate this thing, but how we got here through trial and error. Last but definitely not least, Taylor, please do share with us about yourself, your company, and how you stumbled across entrepreneurship, if it was a stumble.
Listen, you guys are giving me chills, so I'm getting excited. But hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Taylor Burris, and I am the co-founder of the AI Hub, which is an art incubator that supports artists and entrepreneurs leveling up and giving them the opportunities to grow and get paid opportunities. So I'm just resonating completely with Victoria because I came into entrepreneurship in a space of disarray and internal conflict. So I was working for a magazine, I was working in radio, I was on product, I was on sets, I was personal assistant, I was doing so much that I drove up to the magazine where I was working at, and I felt like I was going crazy. I said, my head is not right. And all these spaces that I was in, I was managing teams out of a space of, you're not doing your job right, now I have to step and fix everything. And it wasn't my responsibility to do that, but my head and the way that I work, it's like, if you're not going to do it, I can't let this situation fall. Let me step up and do it for you and get it done right. So in all these spaces, I forced myself into this position of leadership, and I observed the way that other leaders were working and operating. And I said, this is not okay. I don't want people to feel this way. I don't want people to feel disrespected. I don't want people to feel like they're not cared for in a space that is sucking them dry. So I took a leap of faith and actually like quit all of my side hustles and all my jobs. And I said, no, I can do this better, and I can provide better opportunities and like reduce all these issues when it comes to leadership. And that's when I started my first business. It was called Untailored Solutions, where I thought I was somebody. This was still when I was in college. I thought it was somebody. Like, I had a volunteer, I had an intern, I had a personal assistant. I was like, you do this, and you do this, and do this. And then I had a baby when I graduated college, and I realized I'm a team of one at that point. And I said, well, how am I treating myself as my own boss? Like, am I actually showing up for myself? Am I respecting myself? Am I actually caring for my own mental health as my own boss, and really reflecting on that? So when I had the opportunity to open my brick and mortar out in Kansas City, Missouri, I am now working with my better half and my brother. And leadership had to be redefined for me, because now family is involved. And how am I really treating those people that I love when we go home? Am I still in the business mode if I'm the boss and you need to do what I say? So it's been a definite journey, and I love it. And I love that I'm able to provide opportunities and a safe space for not only my family, but other people in the community. So I'm so glad to be on this panel with you all, and you guys are amazing and lovely. So I'm excited.
Shay, so good. So good. We're in good hands, everybody. Somebody put in the chat, good hands, good hands. I am excited to dive into this. And, Taylor, you said something when you started off the start of your journey. You said, I was the type of leader that did the things that my team didn't do because I couldn't not let it happen, right? And then there's so much weight in that word, could not, right? A lot of times for us, we are afraid, Black women, right? Women of color, we are afraid to let the ball drop. But we need to unpack why. Like, we can't talk about releasing without talking about the fear, right? So let's get into it. Andrea, I want to start with you. Why do you think that we are so fearful of relinquishing control in business?
So the first thing that I want to share is that controlling has a lot to do, like if we think about how the mind works, controlling has a lot to do with safety. If I feel that I am safe, then I am able to, let's say, I would mention it as sharing, sharing leadership, or sharing or delegating, or even at home, like telling our partners, okay, you can do this, you can take care of the kids, you can do that. But if we don't feel safe, and that's when the whole nervous system comes in for me, it's like, if we are on this high alert, then we're going to want to control, okay? That's kind of like one of the ways of the mind to give us the sensation that we are safe. And to me, it also has a lot to do with scarcity and abundance. And it does depend a lot on where we came from and what's our story. So if as children we grew up in a safe space, then it's more likely that, that we can connect better with the fact that, abundance is provided by the universe. And if not, then we are like in a scarcity mode. So relinquishing control, when I understood it and I knew that it had a lot to do with my own safety and my own survival, then I was able to, let's say, okay, why is it triggering my survival? So if I talk about my business, or I talk about my experience as a manager in my finance life, when we're managing teams, it's like, where is the fear for that person? Just like you just mentioned, Casey. And for some has a lot to do with, let's say, money. Am I going to be able to pay the rent? For some has a lot to do, am I going to be able to grow up in my career? So if we are able to identify each person through different techniques and opportunities, then we can say, okay, whenever I step into this, let's say, high control alert, then I know that my safety is the thing that's being triggered. And then I can look for options on how to step away from this fear and then move a little bit more towards relaxing and then starting to trust also at my own pace. Because I'm a big fan of respecting the natural rhythm of the body and of the mind, and that's unique. So for every single human, that's very unique. So that would be my first answer.
Yeah, that is so good. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, so one thing that really resonated with what you just said and is so important is going back to what is the environment you are cultivating these instincts to come out of you. So when I was growing up, my mom, she was a single mom raising 2 kids, and she was going back and forth from Colorado to Virginia. So her survival instincts were always going, like everything was a make or break moment. If I don't do this, like my kids won't have food. If I don't do this, so everything is high alert. So thinking about what you said, I think what I realized last week is I was doing the same thing. I said something dropped on the ground. Why am I saying, oh my gosh, if that drops on the ground, my whole business is going to fail? Like what is going off me? You guys didn't listen to me and close the door at that certain time. The whole building's going to go up in flames. I'm like, no, that's not realistic. And I'm putting that pressure on myself. It was putting that pressure on my team that now everyone is always on high alert, always extra, always on high alert. Just the mindset was just crazy. So I had to take a step back and realize, oh, I am getting this from my mom. Oh, I did get that from my auntie. Oh, I did get that from my grandma. And not everything is going to fall down if something doesn't get done right here, right now. So that I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I had to reflect on those moments recently to figure out how to better on the way I function. Yeah.
But another key point to that, and you just hit on it, the both of you, is the self-reflection to look at it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay for it to fail. I think as Black women, we live in such places and spaces that there are severe consequences for things that other people do, and it's just a part of lifing, right? Like it's okay to make a mistake at work. It's okay to not have it all together. It's okay to be like, I can't do the one thing I wanted to do for my business this week because my life is demanding or my body is demanding that I do something else. And often we don't have support systems or networks or encouragement or education or histories that allow us to believe and see that. So that's a space of when I create my teams, it's one of the things that I have been always almost adamant about, because when I was on a team, I never got shown that. So I tell people, you know what your job is, right? I only have 4 children. Last I checked, you're not one of them. And so ultimately, if you're doing your job, you and me are going to be great. If you have questions about your job, come check with me. If you don't have the support you need to get it done, let's talk about it. But ultimately, creating environments where people feel like it's okay to fail, as much as you tell them it's okay to succeed, make sure you're also telling them it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay not to have it all together. That's why we're a team. Those two things you said just kind of like caught me at the back of the neck, because I'm like, that's the thing nobody ever says. It's okay though. It's okay though. So yeah.
That's good, Victoria. And Denise, I'm kicking it over to you as well. Because I want all of us who are on this high alert and are feeling unsafe, you are not crazy. You are not wrong. Like the truth of the matter is, we had to be 150% qualified to get the job, right? And we work beside, many of us have, the mediocre white man, right? Who does not know his job, but he's good. He is good, right? The truth of the matter is, science used to teach, literally the father of OBGYN, theology, understanding, medicine, etc., said Black women don't feel pain. I'm talking about books still refer to that today, right? So we often step into environments. We didn't make it up. Grandmama didn't make it up. Big mama didn't. She wasn't going loony, right? We step into environments where people don't see us as human, right? And they actually think that we got lucky by getting a job. Somebody did a favor. It was affirmative action, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But I agree with everything these ladies have said. Nope. Actually, when you create your company, you have the divine honor of setting and establishing culture. And it does not have to be that way. You can create safety for yourself and your people. And you can tell them, like Victoria said, it's okay to fail. You'll figure it out. It's like cooking rice, right? First it's mushy, then it's real hard. Then you get the reps in. I love that, ladies. Denise, you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out that rice in my Instant Pot, by the way.
Listen.
I'm like, one recipe say 10 minutes, one say 4. I'm like, which one is it?
Listen, girl. Let me tell you, I tried in the Instant Pot. I'm gonna tell you, I went back to the regular pot because the regular pot rice don't fail.
I grew
the regular
up
pot
on
rice
the regular
don't
pot.
fail.
I'm like,
Go back to regular pot rice. We'll be all right. It'll be okay.
Oh man, but like really what I was thinking about too was so a couple of things Andrea mentioned, and one of the biggest things is actually surrender. And is what I got from that. And I can see where it is that we may have some difficulty in surrender because there's a very subtle difference between the surrender by our choice and the surrender that is ancestrally by force. And so then you can kind of see where you control out of fear, right? And so it's like, what happens when we think about control, we do this because you putting no claws in there, right? And at the same time, it's like this seeing that it is your choice, like you're not being forced. So I think if you can sit with that and like assess, like do a quick assessment and realize that, yes, I actually have this choice, to do so. And another thing is rhythms that Andrea mentioned, like, yes, for sure. Learning for me, like that's the biggest thing too, is realizing like, oh, what might seem like it was a failure was actually a rhythm. Like there are certain things and during certain times of the month or certain times of the year, right? Like certain services or certain products that people might be paying more attention to, hence why you see marketing cycles the way that they are. And so it's kind of like being able to take that like perspective of, oh, maybe this isn't that season, like for this in particular, but it might be like for a couple more weeks later. So maybe not necessarily give up on it. It wasn't necessarily a failure. It was just more of like a learning experience at that time. And then it can kind of like pull it off the shelf for later, right? And then when it comes to people, it's allowing them to realize and learn their own rhythms, right? And you can set that example. So it's like, and I feel like we can do it in a way with ease. I think when the trendy part of setting boundaries happened, it actually swung to the other side, to the point that it almost, your boundaries, if you think about a castle and those fences, you also set up stuff to keep things out, which could be the growth and expansion and possibilities of things that you didn't even think about. So I like to look at it as like the pericardium that protects and cases the heart. It actually is very pliable because the heart's a muscle, but it covers it. So it's like in that way, like trusting that it's going to be pliable, and trust that what needs to come in is coming in and what needs to go out is going out. And for those people, right? Like when I bring on interns, I tell them, Victoria, I feel you. I know my style is, look, this is what I need done. Just do what you do. You have to know when you're going to be able to do it. I'd much rather you do it when you know you're in that creative space, or you can pay attention to detail more better at these certain time points. That's all gravy. If I need to teach you how to assess that for yourself because you may not be aware of that, let's do it. As long as I get this done by this time, like we're game. And I'm also that type of person when I was working for other people, is just tell me the deadline and then leave me alone. Like, and I'll come to you if I have questions about what it looks like and all of that stuff, But I think that's huge, is learning the rhythms, the surrender in a way that's surrender by choice versus surrender by force, and realizing that you're not being forced, right? Like that's just something that's part of our heritage that can be healed, and the healing can happen, like, and it does happen. So like kind of explore where that stuff is at.
Ashe, so good. Again, the range is just incredibly beautiful, and sobering too, right? Because we shouldn't err too much on one side or the other. All of you have spoken a bit at this point about your styles in managing people or delegating to people or giving people freedom, right? And I think we need to double click on that a bit as well, especially for folks who are new to leadership or are holding themselves back, right, from hiring. Taylor, I'm going to pivot this question to you, right? It's definitely important to hire good people, find the right people, right? But I've heard you say before that it's important to incentivize in the right way as well, right? So what are your tips around incentivizing your employees for recruitment, retention, any of that good stuff?
Yeah, and that's very hard. So what I had to realize is that nobody will care about your business more than you. And that was hard for me to sink in. I'm like, well, this is so great, and this is this, and this is that. But I'm the only one who cares about it. I'm the only one who's showing up on time. I'm the only one who shows up every time. So in order to incentivize my team, I had to get them to understand how to care. So for example, I have somebody that works with me, and I said he is an amazing artist, he's a singer, and he would show up when he wants to show up. And when I give him an assignment to do, it's never done. So I said, okay, what will make you care? What will make you want to be here? Because you're asking me for a lot, but when I ask you one thing, it doesn't get done. So what he said, well, I really care about shows. I really care about putting on a podcast. And I said, oh, well, that was my mistake, because I never asked you what you were even good at. I just assumed based off of the discussions we had. I didn't ask you what you wanted to do. So let's get you in a position where you'll actually care about what's happening so that you will want to show up, so that you will want to do X, Y, Z, or else I'm going to have to bounce you and find somebody new. And having those honest and open conversations were really important. And that even goes with my partner. So I am a co-founder of my business. And at some point, he was like, I don't even want to be here. And I had to reflect, the problem is me. The problem is really me. I'm used to barking orders, and you need to do this, and it needs to get done, this X, Y, Z. And I realized we're partners, and I need to learn to be a follower in order to be a good leader. So taking that step back and actually listening to what people are telling me, listening and valuing his opinion before I respond, actually valuing and hearing what he's saying, helped me grow as a leader. And that was important. And not only with my direct team, but people who come to me about ideas and partnerships and all these different things. I had to learn to listen and understand and get their perspective before I step in as the leader and say, no, it needs to be my way. So that was it's a very humbling experience every single day, but it's so important to know how to listen and to take a step back and to be a follower to improve your leadership skills. So.
Yeah, beautifully articulated. So many gems in that. Does anyone else have anything they want to add from their own styles and approaches?
I do. I want to take something that Taylor mentioned that I found beautiful, because something that I also do is I work as a doula, and that means I work with pregnant women and this postpartum. And something that I learned while I was doing my training is that as women, something that is naturally, let's say, ingrained in our beings is caring. So I loved it when Taylor said, like teaching them how to care. And I want to like pivot a little bit from that, and it's just helping them maybe remember what is it that they really care for, because we all care for something naturally. And that just takes me to a beautiful tool that I use a lot in my practice, and it's the nonviolent communication. And identifying what I need can also be an incentive. For example, when I was in a corporation, for me, having my own personal time and being able to arrange my schedule was very important. So like my need for autonomy, I would say. So I talked to my boss and I said, I will get everything done, but just kind of like what Denicia said, like, give me the deadline, you'll have it, whenever you need it. but I really want to be able to go to my yoga class, to do my training. So I used to go to like yoga during lunch break. And that was allowed for me. And that's when I knew this is so important. So I started talking to my team at that time. What is important for you? So I had someone that was a single mother. So she wanted to go home by 4 p.m., but she was committed to come in at 7 a.m. She wanted to do home office 2 days of the week, and so on and so forth. You know, someone wanted like more coaching because he wanted to like move up the ladder. And so I think a big incentive for me and in my experience is, and especially as women, since we are so driven by what others, like the outside, you know, the kids, the husband, the company, the, you know, the dream, it's like, what do I need? You know, maybe I need to rest, maybe I need autonomy, maybe I need this. So whenever we help people that are working with us or for us to identify that, and then we are able to provide an environment in which they can satisfy that need, that can be a big incentive in my experience.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say that is so awesome, and it kind of speaks to like my answer to this question is empathy. What you both described is empathy, and we tend to think of empathy as this really touchy-feely thing that it can only be, it's got to be about feelings, and it's about concession, and you know I can't give away my whole business trying to make everybody happy. But that's not what empathy is. Empathy is the exploration of you acknowledging that other people have needs and agency just like you. They like people there's some people who show up for work just for their check, and truth be told, that might be your best worker once you understand that's the only reason they show up to work. Okay. There's also empathy in recognizing that the same way you are having challenges as a business owner, this person may be having challenges in their general life. I think the thing that happens when we become bosses and entrepreneurs and founders is that we often in a like laser sight focus attempt to stay on task and to get things done, we forget like what it's like when you're not a founder. And honestly, that lack of empathy is often why we still are having these discussions about childcare and work-life balance and people not reaching the goals that they want to reach, because I think people in the position to make these decisions lack empathy. And so I would encourage anybody who's thinking about how to incentivize their team, you know, looking at the suggestions that Andrea and Taylor gave about, number one, asking and listening, but number two, being real honest with yourself about what you're creating when it comes to the work that you're trying to get done. It's not realistic for you to want to do the biggest project of your life on a holiday weekend. Why would you expect anybody to do that? And I find that we often make those kinds of crazy demands of people who work for us simply because they work for us. And then they quit. And then you're like, well, nobody wants to work. No, that's not it, sis. They want to work. They just don't want to work like that. So empathy and grace. Give what you want to get back as an employer. You want people to care about your business, care about their life. You want people to give you like permission to kind of figure your way, let them figure their way too.
I translate that. I hear what Victoria's saying is like, sis, your slip showing. Like, let me, like, it just snatched, okay? That's good love right there. That's good love right there. Denicia, you want to add anything? Oh, you're on mute, mama.
Yeah, how about that? So I was gonna point out, like, there were a couple of things that shouted out is like, sometimes even when you may ask what somebody needs, they may not know. And so we hear that often, right? Like something may happen. They're like, well, tell me if you need anything. And the thing is, they literally may not know. And so then this is where it is that like you can tie in, well, ask them what's happening within their body. And that can offer some insight, right? Like, and that's one of the things that I love about it, when you can understand what they have a physical function, right? Like the body has a physical function of some things, but they also have and carry that mental, emotional, and the spiritual aspect of things. And so like by learning that, if they're coming in with headaches or they're a little bit sluggish or something like that, and you see that, it's even asking, you know, like, well, what is it? Like typically those headaches that are right there at the top of the head, they're frustrated about something. There's something in their life that is not moving the way that they're desiring it to move. And so then to kind of become aware of even those subtle nuances, not so much of like, go ahead and take something for it, but to create the space. That's what I heard too, was to create the space for the conversation. And especially if they're used to and accustomed to just like kind of going along robotically in kind of thinking the body's totally separate when it's actually they're integrated. Like once you are able to model that for them and invite that, then like it not only helps you as the leader in the business part, right? But it's them as well and how they're leading in their life. And you're showing and you're modeling that. The other thing too is values. They actually will learn what they value more, but they may not have actually had like a somewhat structured way of inviting those values to come out, and then seeing, okay, well, how can we support that? How can, like, what in this environment could I create so that it is in harmony with their values? Because otherwise that cringing that they'll have because it goes against it, you know, like, and I experienced that, like, and I didn't even know what the heck values were, but I just knew I didn't want to take part in something in one of the business, like one of the companies I was working at. And I was like, that don't sound right to me. And they were just like, but I only Black woman there working in their office, like, well, it's da-da-da. And I'm like, nope, that don't sound right. And then I feel like I would possibly could lose my job because of the way they were looking at me and threats and whatnot. Yes. But at the same time, I knew if I went along with that and I was like, these people are trusting us with their money and I'm not doing that. And I still had a job. They found someone else to do what they wanted them to do. And I just said, my hands ain't gonna be on it because some come out, you know, whatever. And so like, once again, though, that's surrender, that's faith. And so, but when you can identify that and help them identify those values, I think it'll like exude out, you know.
And isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how much COVID changed that for people? Isn't it amazing that something that was so
yes,
like literally
that's what people COVID, saw were their values and how their values
people saw their values
yes.
get checked, and now what it requires. And this is something, again, as you know, I will you know, shamelessly plug Blaze Academy. Like literally, if you're a member of Blaze Academy, you're checking your emotional intelligence. Please remember, most people are not. Please remember that people are still trying to figure out healing that stuff that they got, that they bring to work with them every day. But COVID checked a lot of that. COVID put a lot of people on notice of, this ain't the way I want my life to go. It turned some of us into founders. It turned others into better workers. Everybody's not meant for this life. And that's where that empathy also comes back in. We can't sit in judgment of people who are like, nah, sis, you be in charge. I'm good right here. Because that's the decision they're making. I thought of something you just said when you were talking about surrender. How often do we sit in meetings and watch people not breathe? Out of fear, out of stress, out of, oh my God, this could have been a Zoom call, out of, oh my God, do we really need to do this? Like literally, we check out so much just acknowledging of the people that are in front of us. Take 2 seconds, literally just count to 3 and look at the person in front of you. And I guarantee you, you will see something that makes you shift how you come at that whole conversation.
So good. So good. And I think this is a good place to spin it back to the leader, right? So yes, we will be very, very keen to understand, to listen, to feel even what our employees are feeling. But the truth of the matter is, CEOs, chief everything officers, some of us, right? The body is actually just not meant to carry infinite amounts of stress. Like no matter how dope you are, no matter what college you went to, you just can't, right? And many times the body will sit you down, but we actually shouldn't get to that point, right? And so I think it's important and I'd love to hear various perspectives on this. I think it's important we talk about this intersectionality of health and leadership, right? Like Because the leader that just keeps going 100 hours a week, 100 hours a week, 100 hours a week, like we know that's not sustainable. Like we know horrible things happen, right? We look at many of our greats and see so many issues they have mentally, nervous system, body, right? So what is the intersection? I won't even pin it too much, right? But what is the intersection of health and leadership? Andrea, I want to start with you. Denise, I'd love to hear your lens, and then anyone else can add.
Yeah, so one of the things that I believe is not taking into consideration is resting. And I really want to be very basic. We are animals, we are mammals, we're organisms. I have a dog. She's a new dog for me, so it's been 6 months. But she has taught me so much because we go out for a walk and then she comes home and then she just lays down on her bed and she takes like a 4-hour nap. She's absolutely just enjoying her rest. So a tool that I use for myself, and when you mentioned Casey, like we as leaders, it's super important that everything that we are asking of our team, that we're doing it too. And maybe that means even a little bit more of personal work. Sometimes it could be. And so one of the things, it's like a tool that it's called 8 times 3, and it's like 8 hours of resting, 8 hours of working, and then 8 hours of joy. And I love when Victoria said that. And I work a lot with pleasure. You know, when women are in postpartum, how do we reconnect with pleasure after that experience? So I would say either joy or pleasure. And if you take a look, sometimes the resting, let's say, portion is like very, very, very low. And if we are, and that happened to me, I really enjoy and I love my work. So I was confusing the fact that I was enjoying my work, but I wasn't resting. And it's two different things. So I would say, like, just to give a very specific tool, make sure that you know how you rest. I am going to give my personal example because that's what I know. To rest, I need silence. I need to be alone. And I need to make sure that my phone is not like with me on the same space. And I need to really like observe this urge of going and checking my email. And it can be there like a morning. And what do I do that morning? Whatever comes up, you know, if it's like laying on the couch, I'll lay on the couch. If it's like working with my plant, I'll work with my plants, go to the garden, but just allow yourself to really rest. And just to give some scientific info, and then I'm sure Denicia is going to add up to that. Whenever we are on high alert, we are not on homeostasis. And that means that our organism is thinking a lion, a tiger is going to come and eat me. So I need to be alert. That means I don't need to digest food. I might not get hungry. I might get an ulcer. I don't need to sleep because the lion can come at any time. So just really value the importance of rest. And I know that we are encouraged to work so much, but give it a try, because that's what I did. I gave it a try because my body told me, you're stopping. So whenever that happened to me, I was forced to stop. And then I figured out, well, if I rest, guess what? I am able to enjoy it more, but I'm also way more productive.
So good. Thank you so much, Andrea. Denicia?
You had me like sitting there too. I was just like, rest right now. And I love that. And it goes to like environment. So there was a couple of things, there's a few things that are just like right now for me. So environment in the sense of, yes, assessing the external environment. If you take a look around wherever you're working, like, right, it could be in an office, it could be your car, it could be at home, right? Like wherever you are. And actually, if you could just assess it, and you can even pick, you're constantly in response to your environment. So if that environment it looks cluttered, if it looks like, you know what, I'm not feeling this color palette anymore, or, you know, that chair facing that way, like I'm not feeling, and I think that is just such a tangible like, let me just be in my space, because that is a part of the safety, right? Like, and even like anytime you're sitting down, even for meditation, a big part of it, sure, the act of meditation, but it's actually the fact that you feel safe in your seat. You feel safe on the ground, that something is actually holding you. So I think it's even honoring literally the spaces. Like, there are times that I just sit in my car and I'm like, you know what, Squiddy, thank you so much. The car's name is Squiddy. But like, it's just like, it's the green Prius. Like, so like, but to like, and I know people, I want to say a lot of people, more West people, with Marie Kondo, right? When she was talking about speaking to items and things that were in the spaces, and like people just shrugged it off and they joked about it. But the thing is like, once again, my background's in Eastern medicine as well, is like, there is a respect. There is a respect for things in the home. There is a respect for things in spaces. And when you realize like it's interacting with you all the time, including your food. So even then, that can offer, like, if you are not, like, if you're constantly creating lunch meetings, right? Or constantly dinner meetings, or things are happening over breakfast, like, what is to nurture you can come through food, and your relationship with it is that, oh, you're a side piece. So then that is also saying like yourself is a side piece, right? Like, and everything else is going to be first. And so like, I feel like too, with a lot of the trainings out there, entrepreneurship trainings, and because I used to have these conversations, especially when I realized this connection, and I wasn't really, people weren't getting it. So they weren't like, no, not this time, right? And I'm like, oh, remember divine timing, but I had to remember that for myself, was that all these entrepreneurship trainings, they don't include the health, yet you're the person that's supposed to actually operate this and grow this business. And what I feel like is happening now is it's reactive. It's only, let us talk about it now because there's some anxiety, like, or there's some depression, there's some anger, there's some frustration or something. It's so reactive. And I really feel like business schools can offer this, put this in curriculum. All of like the nonprofits out there, the city entities that support entrepreneurs, VCs, all of that, like, industries themselves need to change, right? To have real estate, please, like, these teams, it doesn't have to be 24 hours all the time they're sitting there by their phones, you know? And I think too, it's honoring yourself and realizing that you're changing. I used to doula as well, Andrea. And I phased out because I realized for myself, as much as I enjoyed being there with her to facilitate that process, I was so on high alert. And I was like, because I'm feeling it. I used to dream about when they were going to go into labor too. So I kind of would start to expect it. But then I was just like, I'm not feeling this. So I'm going to phase this out. I love what I did, but like, you know, but that's a part of it, is like, is taking that. And I feel like we could be a lot more proactive. We can, when discussing business models, it's honoring that entrepreneur is that entrepreneur. So what tools can we bring in from the beginning, and then allow them to guide what the business model is and help them work through that business model. Like, just because it worked one way for one and they were also a skincare line doesn't mean that it's going to work the same for them. And so there are a lot of tools. Like I said, I use the body. I use the way that the symptoms come up for people. That's the way if you tell me you got a little bit of constipation issue and all that stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, you're more meticulous. You're a little bit more detailed type of person. So then this type of model is more than likely going to work. This is who you need to talk to. Or when you're interviewing business coaches or something like that, see if this is their type of structure that they offer. You know, oh, you're the type that has insomnia. right? Like you might be a little bit, you jittery and all that stuff. You get all excited about ideas and everything. You want to do this and that and the other. It's like, super. This type of business model is more than likely going to work for you. This is as you interview, will they allow you to work on several projects at the same time? I've met some women that health issues stuff are arising and all this stuff, and then they start bringing in their business stuff and they're being told to focus on one thing, yet they can't. Like their body physically can handle several things. It's just that business coach doesn't know how to handle it. So it's more of, who are you inviting on your team as well, not just as you as a leader and your team. So it's like it's all an incubator, and everyone, like I said, is in response. So it's like, in what ways is it that those intersections, they're crossed? And I feel like there's just so much room for us to invite in health that is proactive versus it continuously being reactive, the way that it's structured right now as an afterthought, when I do believe it's built in from the beginning and from up front.
Ashe. So good. Before we move on, did anyone else have anything to add?
I wanted to add something, but from a bit of a different perspective. For all of my leaders, for all of my business owners, I want you to be mindful. Do not take advantage of people's poor wellness and sense of desperation. Even to this day, I have been in spaces where owners and leaders will straight up disrespect the people that work for them, and they'll just sit there and take it. And I'm like, what is happening right now? But it's crazy, because you're leveraging your position in order to, you're adding to the craziness. You're adding to the mind, whatever's happening in that person's mind. They probably don't even hear you right now. But that energy that you're giving them and that disrespect that you're throwing on their lives, you don't know what's going to happen when they go home and who they are a leader to, and how that is going to have a snowball effect and affect the future leaders that they're raising and building. You don't know what's happening at home. You don't know what's happening in their lives. So I just want to make sure that all leaders understand the position that you're in and respect the people that are around you, because you are also supporting other leaders in their own community. And when you are breaking down people's health and wellness even more, even after you, like you guys said, COVID helped a lot of people understand their value, but it also caused more damage for those who did not have that opportunity to understand their value. They were operating in that survival mode in their head, like, oh my gosh, now I don't have a job. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So you get tied to this person for 5, 10, 15 years and constantly being disrespected every single day. And I see it more often than I would like. And it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart, because we are all leaders in our own right. And we are all leaders building up other leaders. So I just want everyone to be mindful of how they are approaching every situation.
Thank you for that, Taylor. And it needed to be said, right? Like to keep it a buck, right? We know that Western cultures in working are capitalistic cultures, right? Like it is about exploitation, right? Like how can I get the most profitability out of this system for the least amount of cost, right? Like that's how we sum it up. But when we think about the people that are in there, right, it means you truly are hoping, right, that you find star people that can squeeze a nickel out of a penny. Like you hoping that somebody will work for 100-hour weeks as long as possible, and you turn your eye to it because hopefully I make enough money before they topple over, right? And so I think that's so important. I find myself even with family members a lot, especially as Blaze grows and we get a lot of let's say bring awareness different places, like even reminding people in my family when they come to me with these not crazy ideas, like they literally, like they've seen it, you know, I'm like, yeah, no, we're not doing that though. Like, no, like I want people to like have the ability to live anywhere in the world they want to and work whatever hours they want to and like take unlimited vacation and like get naps. And we can't do that if we trying to do your crap, you know, like, so it is it is a lonely journey sometimes to build what you've never seen before, right? But I think Taylor's absolutely right. I think everyone's absolutely right. Like, the universe just always makes a way. Even if people would say that you can't get there by allowing your people to have autonomy, you can't get there by, having too much flexibility in remote teams, like, it always works out, right? Like, I loved hearing you all's tangible application of rest. Like, I learned the hard way. I mean, I'm talking about nervous system was on fire. Many people in the community saw me send out a long email at the top of the year, like, I got to put some things down, y'all, and because of that, my life today looks like in the morning, the first couple of hours is starting with me. Like, I'm on the treadmill exercising just because it's important for my body, like, not because I'm trying to be snatched, like 5 hours every single day. I have R&R on my calendar, and I do not care how big your business is and how big your check is. Like, you can't reach me at that time because I got to be still. Like, I can't even ideate. I got to be still because my body, needs a different level of rest. But nothing has faltered, right? Like literally exponential gain because I'm more tapped into my body. It's like Solange, I said this on Tuesday in the panel discussion with those of you who were there. She said in her song, Weary, I'm going to look for my body. I'll be back real soon. I'm going to look for my body. I'm finally understanding what sis was talking about because things are infinitely more clear now that I'm back in my body, So ashe to all of this. We're going to wrap it up with the final question. Victoria, any quick words before we do?
Just a quick, I'm going to speak, like all of my fellow panelists are amazing, but I'm going to speak to the people in the room who are still trying to figure it out. Because if anybody knows me, I'm constantly on the grind. I struggle with this. And I think a lot of founders do. And I think there's a silent shame in it.
Yeah.
It's a silent shame in not having enough time and not having enough space and not being able to feel like you can carve out that time for yourself. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I have gotten ill not paying attention. Like, I'm better at it now, but I still struggle with it. I am mindful to the point where I block out lunch, rest, and prayer on my calendar like they're meetings, and I honor them the same way I would honor that money. And I'm saying that to you because there might not be somebody in your life who's looking at you and seeing you in distress and saying, take a breath, take a minute. It's okay. You can do it. And start with a minute. Like, we're talking like taking blocks of time, like literally walk outside. Leave your phone on the desk, walk outside. For the time it takes you to walk outside, that's some time. Tomorrow, double it. A week from now, triple it, to the point where you get that you're like actively seeking it for yourself. Do not feel like you have to sit in shame about it, because I'm a part of the Recoverers Club. You can be with me. You can be down with me. We can sit together. But literally, you will get to that place, but you have to actively start advocating for it. So take a minute.
Ashe. Thank you so much, Victoria. Another thing that needed to be said. All right, y'all, this has been robust. It's been very, very transparent, as you've witnessed, right? Like, it's been very honest. There's a whole range of opinions around the same topics, that folks have been talking about for eons, and we're still trying to figure it out. And so to close, I want to ask each of you a question. And I want you to be very, very vulnerable, okay? I want you to speak to yourself, okay? And give yourself the affirmation that you need in this season of leadership to go higher, right? The things that you know instinctively that you need to do right now, today, to transcend where you are in leadership. What would you say to that woman called Taylor, called Denicia, called Victoria, called Andrea? What would you say to her? And as you say this line, know that there are multitudes of women who are listening who needed to hear it as well. Andrea, I'm going to start with you. What would you say to yourself right now as you ascend to a higher level of leadership?
I would say to Andrea that it's okay to be in a dark mental space sometimes. it's okay to feel emotionally out of balance sometimes. And remember that there's something bigger that's holding you, and you will get through.
Okay. Felt. Whew, so good. Denicia, what would you say to Denicia as you ascend to the next level of leadership?
That's pretty much as I feel like all these things need to happen right now. That I can trust and I surrender to the divine plan that is uniquely mine. And that includes the timing, and that it all may be perfect under grace and in all its perfect ways. It's just literally, I surrender to that divine plan and timing.
Ashe. So good. Thank you, Denicia. Victoria, coming over to you. What would you say to Victoria as she ascends to the next level of leadership?
Oh, dear heart. There are days when I know it doesn't look right. I know it doesn't look like it's going to be okay. I know that you have put in 1000% and feel like you are getting absolutely nothing back for it. But let's go back. Look back a year from ago. Look a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Look at how far you've come. Look at all the things that didn't look like they would be the things that they are now, and they sit here right in front of you. Look at just the last year. Put your mouth on it. Speak what you seek until you see what you said. Keep believing in you when nobody else does. All the best thing.
Ashe, so beautiful. So beautiful. And last but definitely not least, Taylor. What would you say to Taylor as she ascends to the next level of leadership?
I would say be patient with yourself and allow yourself to grieve. Grieve loss, grieve projects not going well, and grieve about who you were, and then move on. You will never be that person who you were. You didn't have those experiences back then. You didn't have those lessons back then. And understand who you are now and elevate. Go from there. Just grow from there. Don't stay in that space of darkness, of grieving, of looking at the past, because the past is not, this is not the past. This is the present, and we need to get to the next step. Yeah.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. And to Casey, I will say, though it is terrifying and so unfamiliar, lean into and accept the love that continues to propel you higher. You are worthy of unconditional love. It will not fail you. It will not go away. It will not abandon you. You have finally found it. Ashe and amen. Ladies, thank you so much for pouring and lifting all of us, for teaching us, for being patient with us in this hour. You all are the best. And to everyone else, we will see you in the next session. Keep going. Don't stop. We have more to give. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.